안녕하세요. 은행언니입니다. 내용이 도움이 되셨다면 좋아요, 구독 버튼을 꼭꼭꼭꼭 눌러주세요.
안녕하세요. 은행언니입니다. 지난 시간에 이어 7월 30일 BDO 한국기업금융팀에서 진행한 웨비나 내용 중 필리핀 경기 회복 방향의 키포인트 부분을 소개하려고 합니다. 발표자는 BDO 은행의 수석 이코노미스트인 미스터 조나스 라벨라스입니다.
미스터 조나스는 BDO에서 국내외 경제, 금융시장 및 거시경제 성장에 관한 분석을 담당하고 계시며 아시안 월스트리트 저널 및 현지 유명 일간지에 정기적으로 논평을 기고하고 계십니다. ANC, 블룸버그, CNN 필리핀스 등 주요 언론사에서 경제 해설자로 활동하고 계시며 다양한 매체에서 이분의 경제 전망을 인용하고 있습니다. 또한 2015년에는 포커스 이코노믹스가 선정한 필리핀 경상수지 전망 이코노미스트 1위로 선정되었습니다. Hi, Mr. Jonas. May we invite you now to begin with the economic briefing, please?
Morning. Okay. So I've labeled my presentation as the Philippines still shining through. Okay. The new development is that because the U.S. economy have already started their fiscal stimulus and they're closer to herd immunity, their central bank has eventually plotted a potential exit strategy in 2023, thus eventually repricing the US dollar. Repricing the US dollar slightly created a weaker peso, and this has eventually created some volatilities in the exchange rate, not just in the Philippines but the rest of the world. So eventually this brings us to how do we look at the fragile recovery that is happening in the Philippines. So let's go first to the forecast. So we're looking at least a 12% in the second quarter. Hopefully we'll be able to end the year at least of 5.5% GDP growth, and probably to grow between 6 to 6.5% in 2022. In terms of the exchange rate, our original forecast remains the same at 49 by year end. We think that the strong remittances towards end of the year could still bring us below the 50 level. However, we will probably make some adjustment if the US Fed or the US Central Bank will continue to highlight their exit strategies in the coming months. So whether they will announce it in August or in September. If they will announce that they will start their exit strategy by December of 2021, then we will probably adjust the exchange rate year end from 49 to 50. So we're just waiting for that, but at the moment, we're still keeping our 49. Now, we don't expect interest rates to adjust because inflation is eventually on a downward trajectory. So inflation is expected to go down to 3.5% in 2022. So these are good economic indicators that is supportive of the recovery. But what will eventually gain traction for us is, of course, will primarily be driven by the immunization timelines. Meaning, we need to fast track the immunization. We need to be able to build consumer and business confidence so that we will see the recovery in loans. People will eventually start doing business again. So this is something that we want. We're starting to see some companies, like in one of my slides earlier, have highlighted their continued expansion in their capital expenditure, which is already a good sign that confidence is slowly rising. Of course, the other things to watch is eventually the long-term changes that is resulting in the pandemic. And one of them, of course, at the moment still is the relative low interest rates. So if we were a company that is in need of expansion plans, it's time to borrow now. You want to lengthen your maturity so you can take advantage of the low interest rate. But if you are an individual looking for a potential bond investment, you might want to look at a 1 to 5 year period in terms of short-term bonds so that you'll be able to take advantage of slightly higher interest rates. Now, we're starting to see economic recovery, and sectors such as the property sector, transport, and eventually banks will eventually become the favor as we gain more traction towards the recovery. While sectors such as communications, anything related to the digital space will still be in favor, particularly in the telecoms business. Now, the life after COVID has eventually created a shift from technology to health consciousness to eventually create these new opportunities of trying to live healthy and, of course, more digitally inclined environment. Of course, other investments on the protection of the environment, social, corporate, governance investment are very much welcomed by a lot of institutional investors.
필리핀 경기 회복 방향의 키포인트에 대한 내용이 도움이 되셨나요? 다음 시간에도 유용한 정보로 여러분께 찾아오겠습니다. 도움이 되셨다면 좋아요와 구독 버튼을 꼭 눌러주세요. 감사합니다.